Exactly how that.
Treated me like a child.
No, it's not women.
Oh, it's 6:30. Let's get this meeting to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Mayor Smith,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Valentine,
Here.
Trustee Stelter,
Here.
Trustee Schwartz. Here. Trustee Check.
Here.
Trustee Hunter. Here. You have a quorum.
Okay, can I get someone to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, you got that second there, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Now we're on to actions and presentations, agenda item number 1. I'm gonna turn it over.
Can you do the pledge?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm just being literal. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Stefan, can I turn it over to you?
Yes.
Agenda number 1 and 2 and 3.
Okay, so I'm actually very glad that we had this special meeting today. I know it was to talk about pro-con statements originally, but we have some really pressing items. And I'll go in sequence here on how things kind of happened. Agenda item number 1 is a resolution 2014 endorsing water smart planning and project design. So what we have already gotten the grant, right? So that was the application that was included as an attachment. But in order to finalize the grant contract with US Bureau of Rec, there has to be a resolution actually endorsing this grant. It also commits us up to $250,000 over the life of this grant as a match, as a local match. And so I wanted to point that out, but so if you see anything in like the grant application that has like the former Mayor Backron's name or former employees of the water department, that was because at the time of application that they were listed. Working with the US Bureau of Rec, I'm listed as the grant administrator, and then we have appropriate employees put in for the contract part of it. So that's what this resolution is. While writing this resolution, I also had to reference our purchasing policy, which is typically done by ordinance, and found that we have no purchasing policy by ordinance. So that's why this ordinance is in there, which also establishes spending limits for department heads, myself, and then anything that needs to go to the board for final approval. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So the first item is this resolution. We need it to be approved so that we can actually get a contract with US Bureau of Rec and actually start working on our water smart grant.
Any discussion?
I should also note that every resolution and every ordinance that's in this packet today has been approved as before by Clay. So.
Yes.
I just have a question. Is there anything in this that concerns you or any red flags that you see? It seems very straightforward to me.
The hardest part has been building out the scope of work and then determining an end date for WaterSmart. We've pushed this clear out to 26 for some of the milestones. So it's going to be a long process. But other than that, the resolution, we knew what we were getting into when the board officially said go for it. So.
Anyone else? Okay, if not, would somebody like to make a motion on page 4? Sorry.
I move to approve resolution 2024-13 endorsing Water Smart Planning and Project Design Grant.
I'll second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Okay.
Item number 2.
So as I was writing resolution 2024-14, that's when I found that we didn't have an ordinance to reference. And so that's what ordinance 2024-03 is. There's some things that I wanted to point out with this. And Chapter 6, Article 6 of Chapter 4 is an appropriate place within our existing codification for this ordinance to go. So I looked at other statutory towns, used some language from them, also referenced the state statutes. As a statutory town, we operate under the state statutes. That's kind of our guiding document, but we can be more prescriptive, right? And I think that's what we need in order for this purchasing manual, the next resolution to be effective. And, really, there hasn't really been a need to have this. This is the first time we've went for a federal grant, and these things are required. So that's why this ordinance is in place. I did want to draw your attention to, what is it, page or packet 113? Page number 114 in the packet. This is the expenditure approval authority. So this is different than what's in the manual because the manual talks about different levels required for purchasing. If it requires just verbal quotes, 3 quotes, or formal process. But what wasn't established in that resolution that should be in an ordinance is approval limits. You heard during one of our special session or workshops or work sessions that department directors felt hampered by their ability to approve things. Their limit currently by a resolution was $1,500. And so what we're proposing is a $3,000 limit for the department head. That doesn't mean that they can bypass the rest of the purchasing manual. They still have to get 3 quotes for things that are over $1,000, right? So this is meant to be used in conjunction with the purchasing manual. That's the next section, 466. This approval authority also has me going up to $10,000. Again, need to follow that purchasing and procurement manual. And then any amount greater than $10,000, of course, goes to the Board of Trustees. One of the most important things in a purchasing policy is emergency purchases. I mean, we found that out with the water loss of 2019, things like that, or our sewer collapses of 2023. We found that we really needed to have a really prescriptive process for emergency purchases. That's why I included it in the ordinance. It's also necessary for making sure that any sort of contracts or agreements that we get into during an emergency are valid. And so that's where this A, B, C, and D give really a prescription for what we need to do in the case of an emergency. We can't necessarily just stop all activity and not address the emergency so that we can have a board meeting, but it tells us what we can do should an emergency situation occur. All very important things. There's a waiver of procedures. That's if we come to you and say, hey, look, for whatever reason we can't follow this, will you waive these procedures for us? That would be up to you to decide. And then cooperative purchasing. So that's like state bid stuff, sheriff's bid stuff. It's also referenced in our purchasing manual. If another jurisdiction has done a competitive bid process, that is similar to it's exactly what we're looking for, right? If they've done it for police interceptors and they got the best deal in a bid, we can then use that to go forward with purchasing police interceptor because they've already gone through that process. It's matched what we've got in our purchasing manual. So that's what this ordinance kind of clears up. It gives a very clear understanding for staff on what can and can't be done. Oh, I forgot.
After Stephanie.
So the procurement contrary to this article. So this is, I had included this. This was a best practice that I saw in other statutory communities. Except as otherwise may be provided by law, it shall be unlawful for any town officer or employee to order a procurement contrary to the provisions of this article. That means that if somebody says, hey, I'm gonna tell you, ABC engineer, that I want you to design this for us, just send us a bill. This says, shall be made, shall be void and wholly without effect, and shall not be binding upon the town in any manner.
Where are you reading?
Section 4620
Thank you.
on page 113.
Okay.
So if let's say, and I'm not saying it's ever going to happen, but let's say one of our public works employees goes out and says, hey, I want you to design this for me, give me a bill, and, we'll move forward with it. Well, if Corey doesn't know about it, Nikki doesn't know about it, I don't know about it, didn't follow any procurement problem, it's the same, it's null and void. So it could happen. It was a best practice. I'm like, I'm going to include that because that seems like something good to have. So.
Better, you had your hand up. Did you want to? Okay, never mind. Any discussion amongst trustees? Okay, time for a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 2024-03 establishing a finance purchasing and procurement policy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving along to agenda item number 3, which starts on page 116.
Thank you. So this goes into that next section that's referenced in the ordinance. So if we have I felt like rather than be really, really prescriptive in an ordinance that requires a meeting and a waiting period before everything's adopted, that to reference it by resolution for our actual internal how we do purchasing made more sense. So if we have to do changes down the road, let's say there's a new requirement by a federal grant, or we find that something isn't working, we can just change the manual by resolution. So this resolution or this manual you've already seen a couple of times. Edits have been made. We've adjusted it so that it's incorporates most edits and most recommendations. The resolution itself actually repeals resolution 2024-11, which was the credit card policy, because it's part of this bigger policy. I think this is going to give us a really clear path for any purchasing. It should make the finance committee's job a whole lot easier. So
Good. Oh, sorry.
Question. Is there anything missing? Like what other pieces of this entire policy are missing? Or are there any?
none that I know of now after the ordinance was passed. So that was the big glowing piece. I found that when I assume something exists, that I should really double check it. And so for this one, the assumption was that we had an ordinance or a code that said how purchasing should go. I'm really surprised. I mean, that was kind of shouldn't be shocked anymore. Yeah, we do now.
So my question would be, if you decide we need some edit for this purchasing manual, then you just bring that to the council and say, I think we need this, and we'll just vote on a change.
On a change, yeah. So and then it would be done by resolution, this purchasing manual. And it doesn't have to be me. It could be that somebody from our finance committee has said, hey, look, we're missing something. We're missing this. We need to add it. Can be added.
And just procedurally, that means that we would be adopting a new resolution, new numbered resolution. We can't, can we amend an existing resolution and keep the numbering, or do we have a new resolution?
No,
A
so
new
the,
manual?
yeah, so the appropriate way to do that, it would be repealing and replacing resolution 2024-14 with resolution 2029-16.
Thank you, right. Any other discussion?
This also gives how we dispose of surplus property, including surplus personal computers.
What's the timing of the surplus sale?
They, my department heads owe me a list by Friday, so it's coming. I already have my list. There you go. So it's coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Oh, I did add, so in some of the comments, 10.0 Department of Suppliers and Contractors, it was missing things. I added those and added a glossary. So if there's an issue with a definition, because I was looking at end user, end user could be our parks guy. Well, what does that mean? Well, he can look it up, right? So
Glossaries are good.
that was added too.
Would anyone like to make a motion, which they could look at on page 116?
I'll move to approve resolution 2024-14.
Second?
I'll second that.
All righty, all in favor?
Thank you.
I do
Trustee
have,
Hunter?
I have something before we adjourn, if I may. I would just like to say a big congratulations to Clerk Vetter. Studying, because the basics you have to know to get into the parliamentary association is way more than we use.
Oh,
Congratulations.
so one of the reason for the glossary is, the person that would be implementing this manual is CalJet. Goes, well, you've referenced town management. What is town management? So I'm like, okay, I'll make this definition. So I made a definition and said, I'm gonna make a glossary.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, really good idea.
Since we're all amateurs and change every 4 years, 2 years.
Well, and I was talking with the mayor about this earlier today, it's continuity of operations plans. And so we need to, if there was a wholesale change in leadership, right, for whatever reason, there's now not a humana, how do I figure it out? It's here is what is the practice.
That's what I was gonna say earlier, and then I was like, Lee doesn't really need any backup. I think they're totally behind this, but I wish we would have had something like this in place at the beginning of 2023. Because, I mean, as you guys all know, I mean, there's just so many special meetings and stuff, because even when we had an interim administrator, her answer to us was always go to the code, and that should always be, for us employees, that should always be the answer. What do we do about this? Go to the code. Code didn't have the answers that we needed, so God forbid something bad should happen. That's one less thing that's gonna be.
Air on fire.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there will be a continuing of operations plan coming soon. It's on my departmental scorecard, but we call it a municipal comprehensive emergency management plan.
You bet, sure. Okay. Anybody else? Any last thoughts? And I adjourn this meeting.
Wow.
Woo!
So this was the shortest, like most of